After weeks of suspicion, I installed a hidden camera in our bedroom, hoping to put my doubts to rest. I wanted to believe everything was fine, that it was just my jealousy playing tricks on me. But on the third day of footage, I saw a man walk into our home, and my wife greeted him in her lingerie in the very bed we shared. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just sat there in silence, watching my whole world fall apart. She didn't look like someone caught. She looked like someone home. The camera didn't blink. It just watched, silent, still, unforgiving. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to install one. But then again, I never thought I'd find myself avoiding my own house because of the quiet. That kind of silence doesn't soothe. It scratches. It lingers. Like an unanswered question hanging in the air. For weeks, I tried to push the thoughts away. Told myself I was paranoid. Jealous. Tired. But it was the little things. Always the little things. Her perfume changed. More floral, heavier. Something new. Her laughter, the real kind, started showing up when she was alone in the bathroom with her phone. And once, just once, she came home without her wedding ring. Claimed she'd forgotten it at work. But I knew her hands better than anyone. That ring had never left her finger in 7 years. I told myself stories to survive. That maybe she was just overwhelmed. That maybe it was my fault, that I hadn't been present enough, kind enough, spontaneous enough. I replayed arguments in my head, trying to trace where we lost us. But deep down, something was wrong. Not explosive. Not obvious. Just off. And it started to show in how she looked at me. Like I was furniture. Background noise. A placeholder. She started staying out late. Girls' night was her favorite excuse. I used to believe it. Until I checked the group chat one night. They hadn't made any plans. No texts. No dinner reservations. That's when the questions started to grow roots. And roots dig deep. I didn't want to confront her with just a hunch. That would make me the villain. The insecure husband. The paranoid spouse. No. I needed the truth, not for a fight. For closure. For clarity. So I bought a small hidden camera online. It looked like a charger. I told myself it was just a precaution. A way to prove to myself that everything was fine. It wasn't. The first day? Nothing. She got home late but looked exhausted. Went straight to bed. Second day? She spent most of it scrolling through her phone, pacing the room, texting someone she wouldn't name. But it was the third day that broke me. The footage was timestamped 2:14 p.m., the exact hour she told me she had a client meeting. Instead, I watched her open the door to a man I'd never seen before. Tall, confident, too familiar. She greeted him not like a guest, not even like a friend, but like someone who belonged. And she was in lingerie. The black set I bought her last Christmas. The one she said made her feel too exposed to ever wear. She kissed him like she'd been starving. Like she couldn't wait. And then they disappeared into the bed we shared. The one we had built dreams in. I didn't move. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just watched. Watched as everything I thought was sacred became staged. Every "I love you" she'd whispered to me felt stolen now, like a line she rehearsed too many times. But the worst part wasn't the act. It was the way she smiled. Relaxed. At ease. Comfortable. Like this wasn't a mistake. Like this wasn't the first time. It was routine. And suddenly everything clicked into place. The perfume wasn't for me. The ring wasn't forgotten. The laughter wasn't innocent. I sat there silent as the footage ended. And I realized she hadn't just betrayed me. She'd replaced me. It all started with small shifts, so subtle I convinced myself they meant nothing. They say you never see the moment everything changes. But I did. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed it. Her wedding ring, the one I spent 2 months' salary on, wasn't in the little ceramic dish where she always left it at night. I didn't panic. I told myself she probably wore it to bed. But when I glanced into the bedroom, her hand rested on the pillow. Bare. It was nothing, I told myself. Maybe her fingers were swollen from the gym. Maybe she forgot. People forget things all the time. But something in my chest tightened, quiet and cold, like a room losing its heat. That's when the shifts began. She stopped texting me during her lunch breaks. I used to get photos of her meals, silly updates, even the occasional "miss you" with a heart emoji. Yeah? Hours would pass in silence. She said she was just busy. So many meetings lately, she told me, not even looking up from her screen. I nodded and smiled. What else could I do? Argue about texts? Our routines, the little rituals that used to make life feel like ours, started to vanish one by one. She used to wait for me at the door when I got home. Eyes lighting up like I was still the best part of her day. Now, she stayed on the couch, phone in hand, screen glowing against her face like a second sun. And the way she looked at me. No, through me. It was like she was looking at a memory of me. Someone she used to know. I tried to explain it away. She'd started a new fitness routine, she was pushing for a promotion, she had a lot on her plate. That's what I told myself. Because the alternative that her heart was shifting away was something I wasn't ready to face. But denial is a heavy coat. And eventually it starts to suffocate. Our goodnight kisses? Replaced with a nod. Sometimes just a muttered night as she rolled away. Once I reached for her under the blanket and she flinched just slightly, but enough. Enough for the silence between us to grow into a canyon. She started sleeping with her phone under the pillow. She'd never done that before. One night, I woke up and saw her sitting on the edge of the bed, screen illuminating her face. She smiled at it. A real smile. The kind she hadn't given me in weeks. I pretended to be asleep. Because pretending was easier than asking questions I wasn't ready to hear answers to. The lies were clumsy, but she knew I trusted her enough not to question them. She left for yoga that morning wearing perfume. Not just any perfume, that one. The one she used to wear when we'd dress up for dinner, when she'd pull me in close and whisper that I smelled like home. Now it lingered in the air long after she was gone, mingling with something sharp, unfamiliar. Masculine. She forgot her mat too. Said she'd rent one at the studio. But when I asked her the name of the place casually, like a husband trying to sound supportive, she blinked, then laughed it off. I always forget the name, she said. But she never used to forget details. Not her. Not the woman who once remembered the exact day we bought our first coffee table. That was the first real crack. The next day, she said she was meeting friends for drinks. I offered to drive her, she refused. Too quickly. Said it would be just girls, that I'd be bored. She left an address I hadn't seen in months. Heels that clicked across the floor like the ticking of a bomb. When she came back, she was smiling. Lipstick smudged just slightly. Her hair tousled like she'd spent the evening in the wind, but there was no breeze that night. The air had been still, oppressive, and she didn't smell like wine or cocktails or the perfume counters of her friends. She smelled like cologne. Not mine. Something darker. Heavier. A scent that didn't belong in our house. I didn't say anything. Not right away. Because love gives you reasons to look away. To chalk it up to a misunderstanding. A coincidence. Because facing the truth means admitting everything you've built is starting to rot beneath your feet. So I watched. I listened. I tested her stories with gentle questions, not accusations, just curiosities. What did Amanda order? Did you use your class pass for yoga? Is that the new gym bag I bought you? Her answers came quickly. Too quickly. A rehearsed rhythm that fell apart when I asked for the second detail. Her eyes would dart left for a split second. Her smile would stutter. She started talking with her hands, more a distraction, maybe. And I started noticing the pauses. The slight shake in her voice when she said my name. The way her phone never left her side, not even for a moment. She used to leave it charging in the kitchen overnight. Now it slept next to her. Like a second relationship she didn't think I'd notice. And the irony? I still wanted to believe her. Because admitting she was lying meant admitting I was losing her. But my gut had gone quiet. Not because it stopped speaking. Because I stopped listening. My phone died, she said, when she hadn't answered for hours, but her battery had been at 82% just before. It was a simple excuse. One sentence. Flat. Dismissive. My phone died. But I had seen it 82%. Not even an hour before. And yet she said it so easily. Like it didn't matter. Like I was foolish for asking. I didn't argue. Just nodded. Let her think it landed. But that night I didn't sleep. Not really. She did though. Or at least pretended to. She curled up with her back to me, her phone nestled under her pillow like a secret. I watched the screen glow faintly every few minutes, lighting the edge of her face. She'd always used do not disturb at night, said the pinging notifications made her anxious. Not anymore. Now she was waiting for them. She used to leave her phone in the kitchen overnight. Said she liked disconnecting. Phones ruin dreams, she'd once joked. I remember that. Because it stuck with me. Now she took it into the bathroom with her. She'd never done that before. She'd lock the door even though it was just us and stay in there for 20, sometimes 30 minutes. She claimed she was reading. Articles, she said. But she never once told me what they were about. That's when I started paying closer attention. To the patterns. To the inconsistencies. To the moments she flinched when I got too close while she was texting. One night, I passed behind her on the couch. Her phone screen dimmed the second I was in view. She said it was autolock. But it never used to be. I checked her settings when she wasn't looking. She'd changed it. To 30 seconds. Nothing she did was aggressive. Nothing obvious. That's the thing about the first lie, it doesn't scream. It whispers. But it's enough. It's enough to make you question everything that came before. To wonder if the warmth was real or just a mask. If the woman lying beside you still loved you or was already someone else entirely. And once you start wondering, it never stops. I found myself watching her more than talking to her. Noticing the way her face changed when a notification came in. The way her tone brightened when she answered certain calls, then dulled again when she hung up. She was living two lives. One in her home. And one just beyond the edges of her screen. And I wasn't invited to the second one. I didn't need proof yet. Because something deeper than logic had taken hold, a feeling. A knowing. She was hiding something. And it wasn't just her phone. It was her. I waited until she left for work, then retrieved the memory card from the hidden camera I'd installed 2 weeks prior. The camera was hidden in the corner lamp, one of those smart bulbs with a discrete lens embedded in the base. I told her it was part of a home automation project. She didn't ask questions. That alone told me everything was already slipping. She used to be curious about everything I did. Now, I could have rebuilt the house around her and she wouldn't have looked up from her phone. Still, when she left for work that morning, same oversized tote slung over her shoulder, same quick, half-hearted love you tossed over her shoulder, I waited. Gave it 10 minutes. Then 20. Just in case. And then I pulled the memory card. I sat at my desk with the lights off. The software of the computer fan was the only sound in the room. I don't know what I expected. Maybe part of me hoped it would show nothing. Just long stretches of silence. Maybe she'd take a nap. Maybe she'd actually gone to the gym just at odd hours. I think I wanted to be wrong. Needed it even. But that hope didn't last long. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, quiet. She worked from the couch, occasionally looked out the window. No texts. No visitors. No answers. But then came day 3. Timestamp 11:17 a.m. The front door opened. And he walked in. Not hesitantly. Not like a guest. He didn't knock. He used the code, the same 4 digits we set when we first moved in. And she was waiting for him. In a silk robe. The same robe I bought her for our anniversary. She said it made her feel luxurious. Said she only wore it when she wanted to feel beautiful. I used to think that meant for me. She smiled at him. Touched his chest. Whispered something I couldn't hear. Then she led him down the hall to our bedroom. She never looked back. They disappeared beyond the frame, but I didn't need to see the rest. My hands went numb. My chest hollowed out, slow and sickening, like a house collapsing inward. All the theories. All the rationalizations. Gone. It wasn't work stress. It wasn't distance. It wasn't me. It was a choice. A pattern. One that played out in my house during my hours under my roof. And it wasn't just the betrayal. It was the ease of it. The way she welcomed him. No hesitation. No guilt. No second thoughts. She didn't just cheat. She invited it in. I had the proof. I had the right to explode. But all I felt was a deep, hollow silence. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just sat there. Alone. Still. Watching the sunlight crawl across the floor like it was mocking me for not moving. The footage was paused, her frozen smile on the screen, his hand on her waist, like a still frame from a movie I never agreed to be in. My finger hovered over the keyboard, tempted to delete it all. Pretend I hadn't seen. Pretend I hadn't confirmed. I didn't. Instead, I watched it again. Not because I wanted to. Because I had to. Like running your tongue over a chipped tooth. It hurts, but you need to feel it again to believe it's real. Part of me wanted to confront her right then. Drive to her office. Call her. Drag the truth into the daylight and force her to look me in the eye. But another part, the quieter part, wanted to rewind everything. Go back to the night she told me her phone died. Back to the day she forgot her yoga mat. Back to the exact moment before I knew. Because once you know, you can't go back. How do you accuse someone you still love? How do you destroy the illusion when you're still living inside it? I looked around the room at the photos on the shelves, the coffee mug she always left by the sink, the blanket we used to fight over on cold nights. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a dismantling of the life I thought we'd built together. Every memory suddenly felt counterfeit. She used to be my home. Now she was a crime scene I couldn't tape off. And it wasn't just sadness. It was something deeper. Grief. But not for a person. For a version of her I now realized had died months ago and no one told me. I thought about asking her directly. Sitting her down. Showing her the footage. But then what? Would she cry? Deny it? Blame me? And even if she confessed, then what? Do I stay? Do I leave? Do I sleep beside a stranger for one more night just to avoid the truth? The options played out like a chessboard, but every move ended in loss. and I was tired of losing. I needed to know everything. Who he was. How long this had been going on. Why I wasn't enough. I didn't just lose her to someone else, I lost her while she looked me in the eyes and told me she loved me. It wasn't enough to see it. I had to understand it. Not just the what. The who. The when. The why. Because when someone burns your house down, you don't just stare at the ashes. You search for the match. So I started digging. She'd forgotten about the shared tablet. It was synced to her cloud account, old messages, photos, even location history. All it took was a password I'd known for years. A stupid inside joke that now felt like a punchline. The first thing I noticed? Deleted texts. Dozens of them. Threads that ended mid-sentence. But the cloud remembered. I scrolled. It started innocently, late meeting again. Don't wait up. Drinks with the team. Then it changed. I miss your hands. I dreamed about you again. I hate pretending when I'm home. My stomach nodded. These weren't just lapses in judgment. This wasn't a one-night mistake. It was routine. Planned. Comfortable. Then I saw his name. A coworker. One she mentioned in passing, always with a tone of annoyance. He's so full of himself, she'd said once. I could never work with someone like that. Turns out she could do a lot more than work with him. Photos followed. Dim hotel rooms. Mirror selfies. Her in that robe again, the one I used to think was ours. Then came the receipts. Digital check-ins at hotels in cities she was supposedly visiting for training. Restaurant bookings for two. Shared playlists. Private albums. Every business trip had been a getaway. Every night I sat alone on the couch, missing her, she was with him. They weren't just sneaking around. They were building something in the shadows of everything we built together. I felt like a detective in my own life. Sifting through the wreckage, tracing her footsteps through lies she didn't even bother to bury deep. And the more I found, the less I recognized her. She didn't just betray me. She replaced me. Replaced my arms. My bed. My name on the reservation. I had asked myself, why wasn't I enough? But as I stared at the digital trail of her second life, a new question formed. How long had I been gone and not even noticed? I confronted her on a quiet Sunday morning, not with rage, but with the calm of someone who had nothing left to lose. She didn't break my heart when she cheated. She broke it when she stopped trying to hide it. The sky was gray, rain tapping faintly against the kitchen windows. It should have been just another lazy Sunday. The kind where we sipped coffee in silence and pretended nothing was wrong. Only this time I couldn't pretend. She sat across from me, wrapped in that soft sweater she always wore on slow mornings. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Just her, the version of her I used to love most. I placed the tablet on the table. Pressed play. The footage ran in silence. She didn't scream. Didn't cover her mouth. Didn't even flinch. She watched herself greet him in that robe. Watched as he walked into our bedroom. Watched her own betrayal unfold in the home we shared. And then she sighed. Not with panic. Not even guilt. Just exhaustion. Like the weight of hiding it had finally collapsed and she wasn't surprised. Just relieved. I didn't want you to find out like this, she whispered. As if how I found out changed what I'd seen. As if it mattered that the knife was clean before it cut me. I stared at her. Waiting. Needing something, an apology, an explanation, a reaction. Anything to prove that the woman sitting in front of me still had some trace of the girl I married. But she just stared at the table. Like a student waiting for the consequences of a failed exam. Why? I finally asked. Not in anger. Just hollow curiosity. Like asking why a storm chose your house and not the one next door. She looked up slowly. Her eyes didn't water. They didn't plead. They just held that same strange emptiness I'd been noticing for months. I needed to feel alive again, she said. Alive. That word echoed. Like I'd been the one killing her. Like my love had been a weight she couldn't carry anymore. I wanted to scream. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I nodded. Because in that moment, I understood something I hadn't wanted to admit. She had already left me. Long before the affair. Long before the texts. She'd left in the pauses between our conversations. In the way she looked through me. In the nights she turned away when I reached for her. The only difference now? I finally saw it. She moved out 2 weeks later. No drama. No final words. Just silence and empty drawers. She didn't just walk out of the house. She walked out of every memory we built and left me wondering if any of them were real. The morning she left, I didn't watch her pack. I heard it though, the quiet creak of closet doors, the thud of a suitcase on hardwood. Hangers clinking like wind chimes in a dying breeze. I stayed in the living room. Stared at the same coffee table we used to argue over decorating. Funny how nothing felt small anymore. When she walked past me, keys in hand, eyes averted, I didn't stop her. There was nothing left to say. Only silence. And drawers left ajar, half empty, like the ribs of a house that used to breathe. She didn't cry. Neither did I. Grief comes in waves, but sometimes it disguises itself as numbness. A stillness so deep it feels like peace until you realize it's just shock in disguise. Friends started texting, calling. You okay? What happened? Where's she been lately? I told them we were taking space. I said the words like they belonged to someone else. Because the truth? I couldn't speak it. Not yet. Not without unraveling. The house was still mine. Legally. Physically. But emotionally it felt borrowed. Her scent lingered in the bedroom, faint but sharp. I washed the sheets 3 times and still caught it at 2 a.m. like a ghost slipping under the door. Her hairbrush was gone. Her slippers. But her presence, her absence, was everywhere. The betrayal didn't play once. It looped. But worse than the footage were the memories. The real ones. The good ones. The nights we danced in the kitchen. The time she cried when I got the promotion. The inside jokes. The little notes she used to leave in my lunch. They were real too. And now they felt poisoned. Like someone had spilled ink across every photo and asked me to smile anyway. That's the cruelest part of infidelity. It doesn't just destroy the present. It rewrites the past. And suddenly, I couldn't tell which parts were ever honest and which ones were just rehearsal for the lie. It's been 6 months. I still check the footage sometimes, not because I miss her, but to remind myself it was real. She didn't just leave. She taught me how to stay for myself. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a slow unraveling of questions you'll never get answers to and somehow learning to live without them. Some nights, I catch myself reaching for my phone, expecting a message that won't come. Not because I want her back, but because part of me still struggles to understand how someone can vanish from your life while still being alive in your memory. I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. The version of her that made me believe love was permanent. It took time to separate the illusion from the person. To accept that she wasn't the woman I fell in love with, or maybe she was and she just stopped being her along the way. I still live in the same house. The furniture's been moved. The photos taken down. But sometimes when the light hits a certain way, it feels like she never left. Or worse, like she never existed. I don't watch the footage to punish myself. I watch it because there's a part of me that still doesn't believe someone could change so completely and so quietly. That's the part that keeps me up at night. But the other part, the one that survived, is rebuilding. I started cooking again. Picked up running. Even called an old friend I hadn't spoken to in years just to hear a voice that still felt familiar. I'm not the same man I was 6 months ago. I'm not sure I'll ever be him again. But maybe that's not a tragedy. Maybe that's growth. I wish I could say I hate her. But I don't. Because hate would mean I still feel something strong. What I feel now is distance. A quiet understanding that some people are meant to teach you lessons, not stay in your life. And hers? Was about the danger of blind trust. Of loving someone so much you forget to protect yourself. Trust isn't something I'll hand out easily again. But maybe that's okay. Some endings don't come with slammed doors or screaming matches. Some endings are just silence. A drawer that never closes quite right. A pillow that still smells like someone who's gone. But in that silence I found something I didn't expect. Myself.